Hello and welcome to the show. How likely is it that a professor of biochemistry could find himself setting a global agenda for peace and human rights through cultural integration? Well, as head of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, this scientist was instrumental in putting into place a framework for a culture of peace. Now, Federico Mayor, who also served in the Spanish government, heads up the organization he founded after leaving UNESCO, the Foundation for a Culture of Peace. How well is he handling the challenge of often violent divisions and differences around the world? We'll find out as we welcome in Federico Mayor. Sir, it's good to have you with us.
Hello, how are you?
Good, sir. I have to start by asking you, it's been, you were 12 years at UNESCO, an instrumental figure there in changing the environment of the way UNESCO worked. And then you left in 1999, you set up the Fundación Cultura de Paz, or Foundation for a Culture of Peace. How well is that going?
Well, you know that peace is what we wish from the origin of time. Always when we meet, we say, salam, shalom, peace be with you. But afterwards, also from the very beginning, particularly in a male society, we have always preferred to utilize the muscle than our minds and our intellectual capacity. And it is for this that today I think that at this beginning of the 21st century, is a new millennium too, we must take a radical decision. We must say from now on, we will abandon the utilization of force and we will try to solve all the problems through dialogue, conversation. And this is precisely what we try to do. And this was, we must take this into account. In the year 1945, after a terrible situation with the Second World War, and was one president of the United States, was President Roosevelt, who said that it's up to the peoples. We the peoples, this is the start of the Charter of the United Nations. We the peoples, we will save the succeeding generations from the scourge of war.
But sir, of course, what you're talking about sounds idealistic. Let's solve all the problems through dialogue. And you have a peace foundation, but so many people set up peace foundations. There are so many similar organizations. Are there too many peace foundations? Is there too much duplication of work, too much waste of resource?
No, the waste of resources is, all the resources are going to war because we have a world, and I think that this is a collective shame, in which every day more than 60,000 human beings die from hunger. But at the same time, during 24 hours, we spend $3 billion in armament. Therefore, it is very clear that there are two options. One option is what says very ancient, from the Roman period, was said, if you wish peace, prepare war. Si vis pacem para bellum in Latin. And now we must say, no, if you wish peace, you must contribute to build peace in the minds of men. This is precisely the UNESCO's mission, to build peace in the minds of men.
Once you left UNESCO, you had a little more freedom, and I was also interested to note how you talked about the formality of the United Nations, and I guess how restrictive it is in what you can and can't do. How much more freedom do you have with your own foundation?
I must tell you that, sincerely, I was also very free in UNESCO, because I realized that you can be very independent when you are the main manager of one institution like this. And for this, you must not accept never. And this must be from the very beginning. You cannot accept any kind of blackmailing, you know. You must be very clear, and you must tell, I have been voted to be the Director General of this organization, and I am going to be the Director General. Of course, sometimes there are resistance for this. Starting with one thing. When I came to UNESCO, you know that the main program of education was literacy, of course, in the colonial languages, and basic education. And I invited the former president of Tanzania, that was a teacher, Julius Nyerere, and to tell all the members of UNESCO what kind of education you want. And he said, we do not like basic education, because in this way we are always submitted to you. We want education in general. And this was one of the main steps that, all together with UNICEF and with this giant of international cooperation that was Jim Grant, this was what we did at the beginning of the decade of the 19th. We did a universal Congress on education for all throughout life.
But of course, what you were doing at that time, and the time you were at UNESCO, you left UNESCO in 1999, you basically were setting up your foundation prior to the attacks in the US of September the 11th. How much did that change the dynamic? How much has that undone the work you wanted to do and the effort you wanted?
Yes, of course, we were all as we were, all, and always, we are in the side of life. This must be very clear. I mean, we must try to explain violence, but we must never justify violence. But in the same way that this 11th of September of the year 2001, we were all in the side of life. We are today also in the same side, and we cannot accept that wars are based on lying, that we cannot accept Guantanamo as one example of the non-respect at all of the human rights, the basic rights. I mean, we must be very clear. We are in favor, of course, of life. But at the same time, we must realize why some people, in a given moment, they react in a violent way. Because this is what we are teaching everywhere. And it is for this that the transition that we are working for. And for this we need to have all the civil society and the media. The media, you are the central point of this new, if you like, we can say the new network that in the world as a whole, we can, in a given moment, to substitute the muscle by the mind. Right. We can make this very big transition from a culture of imposition, of violence, of war, in which we have been living from the origin of time. And now we must change to a culture of dialogue, of alliance, of conciliation, of peace.
But at UNESCO, your Culture of Peace program you put in had a number of themes. For example, education for peace, human rights and democracy, the fight against isolation and poverty, the defense of cultural diversity and intercultural dialogue, and conflict prevention and consolidation of peace. If you look at where we are today, compared with when you were promoting these themes at UNESCO, how much does it bother you that many people would say a step backwards has been taken, not forward, if you look at the divisions in the world?
I think that this is not correct. I think that progressively, now we are in a moment, look at the role that, for example, United States was able to make as a leader of the world in 20 or 30 years ago. They had an immense power that they have not anymore. And now we are realizing that the world is, has a globality, not a globalization, but a globality. And that we have China, and we have India, and we have so many countries that are so important today. And in all these countries, the hope is that finally we will come back to this with the peoples, that is up to the peoples to be the leaders of the world. And the perfect democracy is the democracy that takes into account what the citizens they say. And it is for this that I think that the education of the people in general for a global citizenship, the education not in the laws of the market guiding our life, but in solidarity, in equality, as I said before, in freedom. You must feel free, and this is to be educated. To be educated is to be able to direct your own life every day.
Interestingly, you're quoted as saying that you love the Pax Americana of 1945, the post-war Pax, but you detest, is the word, that you detest the Pax Americana of 2003.
Well, I think that this is not me. In general, we realize that, unfortunately, instead of with the peoples, we're with the states, you see, you realize. And before long, they abandoned the grants for the developing countries, and they gave loans, and the countries became indebted, and they were exploited, and the World Bank was not doing what at the beginning when Roosevelt, in the year 1944, he creates in Bretton Woods the IMF and the World Bank. He says the World Bank for reconstruction and development, and afterwards they have forgotten about this. It's for this that I think that it's very clear that today is up to the human beings. You know, the human beings, when I was Director General of UNESCO, I was told, the monuments, the World Heritage, what a wonder, the pyramids now. The wonder is every single human being, everyone, because they are able to create, they are able to invent, they are able to change, and this change is our hope. And it is for this that I am not optimistic, but I am a hopeful man, because I am sure that we will be able to invent our common future.
But how right is the average person to be a little cynical when there are these large organizations like the UN and UNESCO being a part of that, that they basically have declaration after declaration, there's statement after statement, there's lots of words, but they rarely see the words translated into action, at least not in a way that changes their life?
Yes, because we have not the possibility of making an echo of what we do. As you know, we had a very important meeting in UNESCO, and we have only 10% of the international echo that has what happens with some event in a football match or with a singer. Therefore, the first thing that we need is to be able to be more and more and more people, in order that today with the modern technology, perhaps we will be able to do this, because with the SMS, with the internet, we will be able to have a non-presential participation, and then the voice of the peoples will be perhaps before long. Also, more women will be as leaders of the world. Today, the women only has 5% of influence in the decision making in the world. The moment in which 15 or 20% of women will be in this decision making process, then we will have also the possibility. And finally, I would like to tell you one thing. In Spain, there is a very nice proverb that says, eyes that see, heart that feels. Ojos que ven, corazón que siente. And this has been Al Gore with the inconvenient truth. He has been the person that, in my view, has utilized this to see in order to feel. Well, now we must do the same, but not with environment. Now we must do the same, but for people. And we must say, the more inconvenient truth, the people. How the people is living, how the people, some of them in very difficult conditions, are able to survive and even to smile. Even to smile. This is the lesson that countries like your country or countries like Africa in general are giving to the world. They are able to smile, even if they are living in such a terrible conditions.
Now, are you expecting more eyes that see and hearts that feel in the next administration in the US after the elections?
Sincerely, I think that this can help a lot. Because it's not only the administration in the United States, but this is also the very rapid change that needs to be moderated by United Nations with a lot of power in the world, in China, in India, and in countries like Egypt, Brazil. I mean, I think that we are in a very important moment of this dawn of a new millennium and century.
And you think that's a result of the US's declining power, basically, huh?
Yes. I think that now we can expect that before long it will be a change in general with a more power given to the civil society and to the media, that also will take more the attitude of listening what the people are saying.
And yet it seems that terrorism has become a brand, but peace hasn't. Why is that?
Well, because I can understand this very well, because terrorism has an immediate result of putting all the people against those that are being the transgressors. And it is for this that I have said before. We must examine, we must try to know and to explain why they are violent. But violence cannot be justified. But peace, from many centuries, has been always, as I said before, has been said, if you wish peace, you must prepare war. You must have a lot of armament, a lot of ways of defense yourself. And now we must change this. And the way to change this is precisely to know better the others, to dialogue, to have the conversation instead of confrontation. And this is the way. Believe me that the Alliance of Civilizations, for example, I think that are in the right way. This was started, as you know, by a dialogue between civilizations amongst civilizations. But now we must try to go from the way that is the dialogue to the fruit that is the alliance.
Talking to you before the program, talking to you now, I'm always amazed by your optimism. How do you stay so hopeful when the challenge, considering the challenges you face in trying to promote the concept of peace? What keeps you so optimistic?
No, I am not optimistic, because it is said that one optimistic is a pessimistic that is ill-informed, and I am not ill-informed. I can assure you that I am not. Therefore, what happens is that I have an immense hope in the capacity of the human beings. I think that humanity has been in terrible moments, and they have been able to overcome. They have been even in more terrible moments than we are now at present. And today we have so many possibilities. Technology is also on our side. We can do a fantastic boost in our history. But for this, we need to have the same hope in this creative capacity of the human beings. As I told you before, for me, every single human being is what we must protect, we must safeguard, because in their creative capacity is the unexpected. And the unexpected, what you want, Nelson Mandela was unexpected, Mikhail Gorbachev was unexpected. In this unexpected capacity, I think that we have our hope for the future.
Federico Mayor, it's been a real pleasure talking with you. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure for me to talk with you.
Thank you. Well, thanks very much for joining us as well. Don't forget, you can send emails if you have any pressing issues you'd like us to cover. The email address is riz@aljazeera.net. We'll see you next time. Street Talk is coming up next.